Grab your coffee. It is time for the Friday edition of the Morning Coffee Fam. Oh yeah, that lapel mic is working overtime. And there we go. We're here, and it's time for the big old tradition of the morning in the Darris family household. A morning coffee cheers to you. Ba-boom. Coffee cheers. Hello and welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Melvin. I'm here to talk for 10-15 minutes, see what's happening with you. Maybe give you something to think about for the day. Maybe just talk smack, tell jokes, and read your questions and answer them. We'll see what happens. It's Friday. I believe it's Friday. And congratulations, you have made it through another week. We have made it through another week. If you're watching this video, that means that this week nothing killed you. Anything bad that happened was temporary. The world didn't end. Society didn't crumble. Stock market didn't crash. World War III didn't break out. Either way, congratulations. Even if it wasn't the best week, it definitely wasn't your worst week. Because your worst week would include something like getting hit by a truck and then picked up by an ambulance, and en route to the hospital, the ambulance gets in an accident and catches on fire. And then the fire department comes and they accidentally park the fire truck on top of you because they don't see you in the wreck. And then when they realize that you're there, they cut you in half and take the top end of your torso to the hospital and then sew you together at the bottom and then tell you, go on, live your best life. That's a bad day. And then you leave the hospital to go try to enjoy your new torso life, and you're hit by a bus, and then that's the end of the story. That's a bad day. That's a bad week. This stuff is nothing. Check this out. Major bird party going on outside. I see 5 doves and a sparrow. On the biggest days, this is nothing. At one point, I had 40 mourning doves showing up for breakfast and dinner. It was great. 40. And the sound of 40 mourning doves getting scared and flying away at the same time is terrifying. If you've never heard it, it will scare the crap out of you. So the trick to hang out with mourning doves is you have to be very quiet. You can't make any sounds. You can't step on a leaf. You can't step on a stick. You can't make any sound. And what I do is I whistle. I keep a steady whistle sound going, and for some reason it keeps them calm. I go like this. That is my little mourning dove song that I whistle while I feed them. And 90% of the time, if I'm whistling while I feed them, they don't fly away. They don't get spooked. They don't get scared. Unless I make a move or step on a stick and it breaks, they freak out. Sometimes flying directly into my home's windows, which is really sad. But as long as I do that, I'd say if I don't whistle and I'm outside, 50% of the time they fly away. If I whistle, 10% of the time they fly away. It's interesting. And you see, you never know what you're going to get on the Morning Coffee Fam. We might be talking about the stock market, depression, music, marketing, or whistling with mourning doves. Cheers to that. You know, we're streaming this live on Instagram. Let's give a quick shout out to everybody. What's up, Kostya? What's up, Jay Farley? What's up, Scorpio? What's up, Kachus? What's up, Vidpas? You guys have names as weird as mine. Imagine growing up with a name like Malin in Ada, Oklahoma. I remember all the way back to school, you know, they'd go Johnny Smith here, Jerry Lewis here, ma, and I'd go here. It was enough. And I remember playing t-ball and baseball, and they'd go, next up to bat, we've got Melvin Darvis. And I'd just walk up with my little bat, hurry up and strike out. I was the worst athlete in the world, worst baseball player, worst basketball player. I was terrible. Worst football player. The coach used to beat me in the head through my helmet, pound on the top of my head. Probably gave me a concussion, CTE. I was the worst. I could play soccer pretty good when I was a kid, and I was good at track when I was a kid. I'm fast. But everything else, not for me. But so look, we're on Instagram, and today I posted a quote by Ernest Hemingway. It said something like, I'll paraphrase, it said, there is nothing great about being better than your fellow man. The true goal is to be better than your former self. And I have horribly said that incorrectly, but it was something like that. There's no dignity in being better than others. The goal is to be better than your previous and former self. And it's true, man. It's very, very true. If I were to compare myself to others in any regard, I'm losing. Whether it's in marketing, music, YouTube channels, blogs, luck with the ladies, style, looks, income, living arrangements, friendships, everything. If I compare myself to others, I'm losing. Because there's always going to be somebody who's taller, who's in better shape, who has more YouTube followers, who has more Instagram followers, who's prettier, who's better looking. But that's not what you worry about. You worry about, am I doing better now than I was years ago? And if the answer to that question is yes, I'm doing good. In my book, you're doing great. If the answer is no, you really need to stop and take a look. And this happens to me all the time. I go through dips, man. And like I've said before, sometimes it takes several months to realize you're in a dip. You wake up one day and something bad has happened and you go, wait a minute, what's going on here? I'm doing way worse right now than I was last year. What was I doing last year? And you have to backtrack, reset, and go, okay, start over. I was eating this kind of food. I was not doing these bad behaviors. I was, streaming on YouTube. Whatever I was doing, I'll just go back to it. With the goal of, like the thing that I heard one time, this homeless guy online said, a setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. It was this guy named the homeless rapper, Red, R-E-D, I think. And they found he was a beatboxer and he sang and has these great songs. But he says, what's up, it's Red, and letting you guys know I'm back, and that a setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. And it's true. There's always going to be peaks and valleys, and sometimes you're going to be doing good, sometimes you're going to be doing bad. But if you can snap out of doing bad, then a setback ain't nothing but a setup for a comeback. The problem happens when you realize you're in a tailspin, free fall, and everything's crumbling around you, and you just dig your nails in harder. I've done that myself for decades at a time. As the worse things got, I just dug in harder into whatever bad behavior I was doing to cause all my problems. I just dig in harder. So if you're doing great right now, great. If you used to do real bad and now you're doing real good, that's awesome. That's the way it's supposed to be. You start off, things are rough. Hopefully over time you learn, you live, you become more mature, you read, maybe you travel, you educate yourself on things, you try to become a better person, and all of these things. And if that's not the case, you got to take a look at everything and just stop right where you are. Maybe you're angry because you don't have as many Instagram followers as The Rock, right? Or maybe you're angry because you didn't get the promotion at work and some jackass got the promotion that you know that you deserved. Or whatever is happening. whatever's keeping you from doing better than you used to do, figure it out. Do a self-diagnosis, an audit of your mind, body, and soul. I go, okay, if what I'm doing now has made things worse, what's the opposite? Like, I actually did a pretty interesting exercise when I turned 40-ish. I looked back at my entire life and I thought, regardless of circumstance, regardless of, finances or living arrangements, because, I grew up in abject, just total poverty, hopeless existence, something out of a movie, living in a shack, alcoholic father, violence, abuse, poverty, struggle, cars breaking down, nothing to eat, too many kids, dad's on the run, all this is like a Little House on the Prairie episode in my life when I was young. But there were times during that period when I had some of the best times of my life. We lived in the woods in Bing, Oklahoma. And we had no money, no friends. We were out there in the middle of nowhere. And so that forced me and my brothers to go out into the woods every day and create some sort of an adventure, an entertainment. And although we struggled heavily during those times, and some of the memories are like the things that you drink about, still you realize 30 years later you're still drinking about those same things. Some of those bad memories were really bad and scarring and life altering, but some of those memories, man, are the best memories I ever had, running around in the woods with my two brothers, one older, one younger, and we were a trio, just out there making it up, inventing villages, searching for treasures. And someday I'll tell you guys the story of Treasure Island, which is a story about living in those woods, and my brother discovered an island filled with treasure. I'll tell that story another time. But what I'm trying to say is I looked back at my life and I picked which character I liked the best, which me do I like the best, because you go through a lot of phases. You have like your super childhood, you don't really have any choices, your parents are dressing you, everything. And then you become a sort of an independent child, maybe at 7 or 8. And then around 14 or 15, you kind of become a new character. I did anyway. And then around 21 or 22, you're a different person. This is how it worked for me. Then 30 hits and you're different. Then 38, and 40, you start to change. You've been many, many characters, all living inside of the same body. And myself personally, I have changed more than most people that I know. Some of my best friends are exactly the same as they were 20, 30 years ago. And I like that. I like that consistency. I mean, with the same haircut, same clothing style, same attitude, everything. I've gone through major swings. But at some point, I looked back and I said, who do I want to be? And the character that I picked was a combination of, was the guy, in my head, what popped up to me as being about the happiest and most free, fun time of my life was the age of when I was about 19 to 22, 23. I was living in Dallas, Texas. I was out of control. I was broke. I was drinking a lot and getting in a lot of trouble. But internally, I felt I had a good feeling. And when you get into your 30s, sometimes you lose some of that like wild wonder and creativity and nuttiness, and even the clothing style. I looked back at all the styles, like, who do I want to be? And I kind of realized that was the character from my past, although he was extraordinarily flawed. That was probably my most fun character that I ever was, probably the truest to myself. Just super creative, out there risking it. No real plans, just trying to sing and make something happen. And I've done my best to recapture that guy, if in nothing else, just feeling alone. And it's an interesting exercise. So if you feel stuck, you might try that sometime. And go, hey, if I don't like who I am now, or I'm not 100% satisfied, who else when was I the happiest and what was I doing then? And go back in time and you can maybe recreate that. Tell us the story about when you sold meat out of a truck with those dudes. That was actually during this era. That was in Dallas. When I did that, I was probably 22. which was at the tail end of this era that I'm talking about. That was part of a very strange and dark time in my life. Because as fun as the Meat Man stories are, and the people, the characters that I met were crazy, and I could tell you stories all day. I could tell you about Big Brad, a 330-pound football player who was on the Dallas Cowboys practice team. He didn't make the official team, but he had made it to the practice team. But they didn't pay a lot of money, so he was selling meat, and he showed up, this huge guy, 6'5", 330 pounds. And we called him Big Brad, and he was the funniest guy in the world. And one time he went up to this door and knocked on the door. And a large, obese woman was at the door, and I was with him. And he said, hey, you know, my name's Brad, we're out here selling steaks. And she goes, her response was, I'm a vegetarian. And we were trained to respond to that by saying, well, I'm a Sagittarius, can I come in? And a lot of times they'd laugh and let you in. But his response was, he goes, hey, I'm out here selling meat. Does your family eat steak, chicken, and seafood? And she goes, no, we're vegetarians. And he looked her up and down. Remember, he's 300, he's a big, heavy guy himself. And he looked right at her and he just goes, bitch, what are you doing? Eating butter by the bowl? And we just, I mean, me and the other guy we were with, we just died laughing. We laughed for the entire rest of the day. I think we retired for the day and went to Dave & Buster's to play video games and drink beer. It was like, I can't do anything after this, we're done. Half the days we worked, we would start off in the morning, do like the chants and the music and get everybody going. And then a lot of us who were alcoholics and drug people and everything, we would drive the truck straight from the office to Dave & Buster's and just start drinking and playing video games at like 8:30 in the morning. By 11 or noon, everyone was tanked, and we'd head out. I mean, we were selling meat like in traffic, in the gas stations. I have so many stories. Yeah, and Brandon is right. You guys have heard these before. I started going by the name Anthony because when you knock on someone's door and you go, hey, my name's Malin and I'm out here trying to sell steak to whatever, they go, what's your name? And it would derail the conversation. Malin. What, Melvin? No. Malin. Waylon? No. Malin. Veva? No. Malin. Volva? No. And it would be blown. So I just started saying, hey, I'm Anthony. They go, hey, Anthony, you know, and we could get right past it. Anyway, there's a few Meat Man stories for you. That's actually a popular video. I posted one story about I refuse to lose, and to this day I have meat men who are currently selling meat who contact me. And I watched some videos of some meat men, and they're out there doing it to this day. It's wild to see. It is like a flashback and a deja vu to a fun time for me, but I was also, boy, was I a mess. But man, if you're a mess, I was 21, young, I was a disaster, and I found a job I could drink at, and everybody smoked pot and did a little something on the side. I mean, I fell right in as a 21, 22-year-old criminal outlaw. It was perfect. I thought I'd found my people. I'm going to do this forever. It was a good time. Who we got? What's up, Zippy 101? Coffee cheers to Pete. Bam. But that's it. I'm rambling, and it is time to go. The replay will be up on YouTube. If you're watching on Instagram, this will be on YouTube within an hour or two. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the suggestions on a few things to talk about. I really have no agenda when I come on. I just like to come on and say what's up to you guys, give you something to watch that's not the news or depressing or dark or about the end of the world. Because if you're like me, you are a sponge. And whatever you surround yourself with, you will become. I'm to the degree that if I hang out with people from England for long enough, I'll start speaking with their accent. One time I spent a week maybe 2 weeks in Mexico with a friend of mine's family who do not speak English, and one of the guys there was a translator between me and his mother, and we talked a lot through a translator. But when I caught myself at some point, I was speaking with a Spanish accent. I think we all do it. If I'm hanging around people that like to party and do drugs and get crazy and wild and get arrested, that's what I do. If I'm around people who are being positive and working out and eating healthy and trying to self-improve, that's what I do. So I have to be real careful. Maybe you do too, and that's what this is for. For my fellow weirdos who need something positive to cling to in a very strange time, in a very strange world. And if nothing else, something to pass the time and drink your coffee with. All right, kids, I gotta go. Thank you for tuning in. It's the end of the week. I'll see you guys next week. And as always, coffee cheers on the way out. Ba-boom. That's that. Here's my thumbnail. Y'all take care. And as always, I will see you in the future.